So I'm a big believer in, again, diversification. So I probably have over 100 alternative investments in my portfolio. And I have not made I've not made life-changing bets on any of them, but I've made significant bets in each one of them. And really one of my simplest rules is if I do not understand it, I do not invest in it.
Welcome to the Mastering Real Estate podcast. This podcast is for real estate investors and professionals looking to take their real estate game to the next level. Each week, I review the industry's leading real estate books and break down the main lessons that you can apply to your life and business. Then, every other week, I review my own personal lessons learned from flipping over 100 houses and being a full-time real estate investor since 2018. Stay tuned each week so that we can all become masters of real estate together. Welcome back to the Mastering Real Estate podcast. This is episode 32. Today, I am thrilled to introduce our special guest, Peter Kuhn. Peter is the founder and general partner of Compression Holdings, an innovative investment firm dedicated to supporting early-stage ventures in disruptive technologies. With over 2 decades of experience in finance and venture capital, Peter has built a reputation for his forward-thinking approach and keen ability to identify high-growth opportunities in emerging markets. Notably, he and his investment partners were once among the largest owners of Dollar General stores in the United States, demonstrating their expertise in scaling and managing high-performing retail assets. Under his leadership, Compression Holdings has invested in a wide range of sectors, including tech, health, and sustainability-focused startups, helping businesses scale through strategic capital and industry connections. Known for fostering a collaborative entrepreneurial ecosystem, Peter actively mentors founders, emphasizing resilience, innovation, and sustainable growth. As a frequent speaker at conferences and podcasts, he shares his insights for venture funding, startup strategy, and market trends with a commitment to driving positive, impactful change in the investment landscape. Peter, thank you so much and welcome to the podcast.
I'm really excited to be here. Glad we could finally coordinate schedules. I know it took a little while.
Yes. Can you tell us a little bit about your background? Let's start there. Maybe where you grew up in your early career before real estate.
So I was born actually in the Bronx, New York City, about 1.5 miles or 2 miles north of Yankee Stadium. My family moved out to California in 1972. We moved to a little town called Moraga in the East Bay. Was there for about 4 or 5 years. Then went down to Santa Clara University in Silicon Valley, and I said, wow, there's a few things going on here. Maybe I should stick around. Got an accounting degree at Santa Clara, went to work for Price Waterhouse. It was actually Price Waterhouse back in the days. Now it's Price Waterhouse Coopers. And really a great place to learn my career, get a lot of insight into different things. And then I just fell into the insurance business, went to work for a large insurance company, Connecticut General Cigna, really because they had a great training program. Soon came to the realization that if I worked for Cigna, I could only sell Cigna products. But if I went out on my own, I could not only sell Cigna products, but everybody else. So I opened up my own employee benefit brokerage and consulting firm. Ran that from the late 80s until today. I'm still active in that business. I sold that business in 2017, but I'm still engaged working.
Okay. So you were working in Silicon Valley in the 90s during the huge tech boom. Were you ever tempted to pivot into tech in any way?
When I saw that question, it made me pause and think. I certainly got some job offers from people I was calling on. I was running my own business. It's really nice to run your own business. It's really empowering. Get to set your schedule. I was making a very good living, and it was a lot more stable than these tech companies where we would see them come and go. We would go out and sell these, go out and have interviews with companies to sell them a benefits program. And they would all tell us they're going to be the next Apple computer. I'd say, look, you know what? Just as long as you can pay your bill next month, I'm good. During the big run up in the late 90s, we would get all these customers and they would want to pay 100% of the cost for the employees, 100% the cost for their dependents. I said, you don't have to do that. Oh, no, we need to attract employees. I said, what's your revenue model? Oh, we don't have a revenue model. We just want eyeballs on our site and then somebody's going to buy us. And I just make a little note to self. Downturn, these guys weren't going to be around. And I was probably 95% right.
Wow, that is so crazy. I think one thing that's really interesting about you is that you have your initial background as a CPA, but knowing you a little bit, I also know that you are a great salesman, which is such a rare combination. I
Correct. Yes. And
suspect
many people have commented, they say, you're the most unaccounting accountant I've ever met.
Yes, you are. You really are. And I suspect that has probably been a huge asset for you as you've built several businesses. What is your
It really has helped. Those analytical skills are really good. And it is a core competency of who and what I am. And I've had CFOs in meetings say, hey, you need to slow down. You're going too fast on these numbers. I'm not following you. So I'm fortunate in that I'm number gifted. So if you give me prospectus, if you give me an offering memorandum, I can look through that thing in 15 or 30 minutes, know if I'm going to invest, pick it apart, have my questions. But if you came to me and said, Peter, I'll give you 12 months, but you need to learn Mandarin, I'd say, uncle, I'm just not wired that way.
But that's amazing, though, that you also have that capability to talk to people and be a great salesman. I think it's such a rare combination. You do have a lot of people who might be gifted quantitatively, and then you certainly have people who are gifted on sales and have the gift of gab, but it is rare to find someone with both. And did that both sides come naturally to you?
They really did. And I'll give you a little side story here that's interesting. At one point in time, I had a Series 6, 63, and 7. These are securities licenses. And you had to go sit and take a test. I think it was either administered by FINRA or the SEC. And I was the first person done with the test. So they allowed 3 hours, and I think I was done in an hour and a half or an hour and 45 minutes. I walked out. This woman came up to me at the break and said, did you just give up? That was the hardest test I ever took. I said, no, I was done. I said, I'm a CPA. I said, these questions are a joke. And she said, that's not fair. That's cheating. And I'm like, you know what, lady? I put in the work and now it's paying dividends for me.
Yes, absolutely. That's so cool. Okay. So you sold your insurance business, I believe in 2017. Is that correct?
I sold it in 17, but really, I probably started investing as soon as I started making some real money in the 90s. And I invested in a bunch of tech companies and VC and real estate. And the problem with the tech companies is they were up, they were down. I said, you know what, I'm tired of this. I worked too hard for my money. What can I invest in that's going to provide me a more stable, better rate of return? And really probably the key decisions I made in my life was to invest in municipal bonds. And I really loaded up on municipal bonds in the 2008, 2009, 2010 timeframe. If you remember, that was the great financial crisis, and everybody thought California was basically going to fall off the left coast into the Pacific Ocean. And I was getting 7, 8, and 9% double tax-free on these municipal bonds, which would equate to 14, 16, 18% taxable returns. So it was a no-brainer. Furthermore, due to my analytical skills, I actually read the prospectus. The prospectus on a typical bond offering is somewhere between 300 and 350 pages. In the early 200 pages, there's a little provision that says, look, if more than 55% of the people in this school district voted for really the municipality, the governing district, if more than 55% of the people vote for those bonds, then become an obligation of the homeowners and not the school district. So even if the school district went broke, I would still get my bonds paid back, because if there was 100,000 homes in that school district, each person had liability for 1/100th. It was based on the assessed value of the home, but you get what I'm driving at. So it was really a riskless return. I've had conversations with portfolio managers that run multi-billion-dollar municipal bond funds, and they did not know that.
Not that many people talk about municipal bonds to begin with. So as you're investing in all these things, how did you first decide to do it or find out about it?
You know what? I had a client that was an old line San Jose family, and they were investing in municipal bonds. And I started doing some research. I found that the guys that were the go-to municipal bond dealers in the country and developed a relationship with them and became one of their best customers for. I'm still a good customer of theirs, but I was one of their most active customers between 2008 and 2012. And really what that did was it gave me a financial foundation. These bonds that I was buying, you would go buy the bond for a nickel or a dime, and in 30 years, they would give you back $1. So if you're buying them for a nickel, it's a 20x return. If you're buying them for a dime, it's a 10x return, and it's riskless. You do real estate projects. How many times have you even 4x or 5x your money, and how much risk do you have?
Yeah, it's rare to 4x or 5x, and you have a significant risk.
Correct. And so it's riskless, and you're 10x or 20x. And yeah, the time's a little longer, but it's a good place to build wealth.
No kidding. That's so cool. And so from there, how did you dive into real estate? How did you first start investing in real estate?
The municipal bond trade had played out. I kept my portfolio of bonds. I think at the height, I had about 350 or 360 different individual municipal bond QSIPs. And that trade went away, as most things do. I had a friend that was buying one-off Dollar General stores, and he was buying them for cash. He said, "Hey, these are the greatest things in the world. You know, I'm getting 8 or 9%. It's sheltered by depreciation. All these good things. Do you want to buy some?" And I said, "Look, you're buying one store in the middle of nowhere." I said, "If that store goes dark," I said, "you've lost all your money." I said, "What I would prefer to do is to buy a portfolio." I'm a big believer in diversification, big believer in the portfolio theory. And so I said, "What you should do is go out, put some debt on them, buy 10 stores, so that if one goes dark, you still have 9 left that are operating. You've only taken a 10%. And we talked about it, and et cetera, et cetera. He introduced me to the broker he was working with. I talked with the broker. I said, "Look, why don't we take some debt, portfolioize these, get a few other guys in, blah, blah, blah." Long story short, we ended up owning $425 General stores at the peak. And the thing is, when I looked at the first couple, I was always nervous. I'm like, oh, there's 300 people in this town, 500 people in this town, 2,000 people in this town, 7,000 people in the town. But then I soon came to the realization that if Dollar General put their flag down in that town, no one else was going to come. They dominated the marketplace, and that store wasn't going to go away. The other thing is Dollar General was a credit-rated tenant, so we were able to get very good financing from the banks because it was a credit-rated tenant as opposed to a nail salon or a barber shop or something like that. So that really played into it. We were really indifferent as to where we bought the stores because we knew the product, i.e. the stores were all 9,029 square feet or 9,100 square feet. They had the same triple net lease on them, and they were 15-year leases. We always tried to sell them before they got below 10 years because once they got below 9, they started decreasing in value. And that's one of the reasons why we exited, is because our leases were starting to burn off and we wanted to get out of them before they started to deteriorate in value.
How does it work? So does Dollar General, the operating company, do they come to you and say, we want to put a store in this location? Can you build it to suit? Or are you looking at the different markets and choosing the locations for
So the way it works is Dollar General has what are called preferred developers. Let's just make it simple. A preferred developer has a state or a half a state. Some may have multiple states, but just let's make it easy. Dollar General contracts with a preferred developer. These preferred developers are primarily general contractors. Dollar General has an absolute standard footprint store. It's basically a kit. It's an erector set. It's a kit building. Those aluminum buildings you probably see everywhere where you live in the commercial things. That's really what it is. And they just dress them up a little bit. So they contract with the developer then, and Dollar General says, look, we want it within, I don't know, 1,000 yards of this location. And they give them a pin drop where they want it. The developer goes out, buys the land, builds the building. The developer doesn't have the balance sheet to hold those stores. So then the developer sells them. They try and sell them at and I'm going to assume your audience knows what a cap rate is. They're trying to sell them at a 5.5 or a 6% cap. We said, look, we don't want to buy them at that. We'll buy them at a 7.5 or 7.75. No questions asked. We'll perform. And we were really the buyer of last resort for these guys, but we didn't care if it was, again, some town with 300 people where other people said, oh, I only want them in Texas and California and Florida. We owned all ours in Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, just small little backwater markets. And then it threw off a ton of cash. And then when COVID came, everybody wanted to do all these 1031 exchanges. So we took all the Dollar General stores and put them into a DST and sold them to 1031 buyers and exited.
Awesome. Is there anything that caused you to exit out?
Just, I really felt we had made 90% of the money that we could make. We had seen all the upsides, so there was no reason to continue forward.
Okay. So what was the next? So that was when was that? When would you?
We probably exited the Dollar General stores in 20 and 21, maybe the early part of 22.
Okay.
We exited the Dollar General stores. And then what I did was I started deploying money into a variety of different investments, industrial real estate, life settlements, dialysis centers, private equity partnerships, mezz debt, pref equity, the whole gamut of alternative investments, which has been interesting.
To me, that sounds like so many different types of asset classes. How did you think about investing in all these different asset classes? What is your kind of analysis criteria, or maybe your investment philosophy now that you've taken this next step?
Good question. So I'm a big believer in, again, diversification. So I probably have over 100 alternative investments in my portfolio. And I have not made I've not made life-changing bets on any of them, but I've made significant bets in each one of them. And really one of my simplest rules is if I do not understand it, I do not invest in it. So guys come to me with these hedge funds, these long, short arbitrage categories with all these different, I'm going to call them elements within the thing, and it's a big fat black box. And I'm like, that's not me. I'm not interested in that. But somebody comes to me and says, hey, look, we have an industrial building. We're borrowing 60 cents on the dollar for it. We're looking for 40% of the equity, and the lease is for 30 years, and it has 3% kickers each year. That's really easy to understand, and I'll invest in that.
Cool. Is there any particular investment or asset class that you are excited about right now, or you think is on the rise?
There's nothing I'm super excited about. I probably have more cash now as a percentage of my portfolio than I've ever had before. I'm getting 5.25, 5.5 on that, and waiting for the right opportunity. I'd like to see us get to the inflection point. As we sit here today and record this, the stock market was down 700 points yesterday, down another 700 points today. We could be at this inflection point. I think the Fed's going to come out and probably say 25, maybe even a 50 bip cut. I think if we can get 150 bips in cuts, that's going to certainly revive real estate. There's been a big just wait and see, sitting on the sidelines. The buyers think their property's worth X, the sellers think their property's worth X, and the buyer thinks it's worth 30% less. So there's been a lot of stagnation in transactions, and just the price of debt, just yield don't pencil. And then you've also got construction costs, which are absurd.
Exactly. So you're in the waiting game.
Yes.
Along with a lot of people right now.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pent-up capital on the sidelines.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit more about your investment philosophy. So I know diversification is really important to you. Being able to understand the business is really important. I heard in my research that it's also really important to you to have partners or have skin in the game in your investments.
Absolutely. In other words, I want the sponsor to have material skin in the game, whether that be equity, whether that be a personal guarantee, whether that being their core business. If somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, I have this little side business, I want you to put cash in it," and they don't have any cash in it, and they're only going to work on it part-time, that's not going to fly for me. But if somebody comes and says, "Look, if this business fails, I'm not going to be able to put it on my table. I have all of my life savings in here. I work at this business 365 days a year." That resonates a lot with me.
Absolutely. What are your thoughts about private equity investing?
It's a big deal these days. Private equity probably controls more of the market than, let's call it, the publicly traded companies that we all know and love. There's some really good things about private equity, but there's some bad things about it. And really what it is you need to get in with a sponsor that has some deep subject matter expertise in that space or that vertical that they're going after.
Are you invested in any private equity funds right now?
I'm probably in, again, 15 private equity funds, maybe more.
Cool. Very cool. Let's talk a little bit about financial management. I'm very interested in this, especially with your background as a CPA and everything you've done. Let's start with, how do you manage your finances? Do you do it yourself? Do you work with a financial advisor or a family office? How do you approach that?
So I would say my investment decisions are primarily driven by me. I will take input from others. I am a voracious reader. I like to attend, I'll call them conferences. I'm a member of some discussion groups, particularly focused on alternative investments. So I have lots of sources of input to make decisions. Ultimately, the decision to invest in investment A, B, or C is mine. On the, I'm going to call it the compliance side of the house, I have an entire team that works with me and does all my tax compliance work and tax planning. And I don't know, I probably did my estate plan 5 years ago and put together a very sophisticated estate plan. And I think part of that is because I've been in the insurance business for so long, so I understand and see the importance of it.
Yes. I also heard in my research that, I don't know how recent this was, but I heard that you did switch CPAs and were able to save a ton on your taxes. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about that and give us some advice about how to find a good CPA, because this is something that I found to be, I don't know why it's difficult to find a good CPA. It's harder than maybe it should be. Or maybe I'm just not asking the right question.
The primary reason why I changed CPAs is I moved my tax residence from California to Arizona. Arizona top marginal bracket is 2.5%. California top marginal bracket is 13.3%. So you're saving 10.6% on every dollar. So that's really a big savings. And I wanted somebody who was familiar, who was here locally, that I could see in person and do that work. So moving to Arizona was certainly beneficial from a tax perspective. I did interview, when I did move down here, I interviewed about a half a dozen firms for the people I just discarded. My return is very complicated, so it's unique. But I would say if you are, there's really 2 or 3 things. Are you talking about looking for a CPA for someone who's a business owner, real estate developer like yourself, or are you looking for someone who's a CPA for someone who's a W-2 employee and doesn't have a very complicated tax situation? They're different.
Business owner in real estate. Yes, I think finding people who truly specialize in tax savings for business owners in real estate. It's been I think we're on our 3rd or 4th one now.
Wow. I would say network with other people. I would say maybe come up with a checklist of questions that you want to ask them. How many other real estate developers they have? How many other contractors they have? How many business owners do they have? And if they say I have 50 or 100 contractors or real estate developers business, then they're probably going to be a good fit for you. But if all of their tax work is W-2 employees that maybe have a rental unit here or there, that's probably not a good fit. So I would maybe do a little more due diligence and a little more investigation at the front end of making that selection. Yeah, before I moved, I had the same accountant for 25 years, 30 years. In fact, I had I was traumatized when we moved from California to Arizona because I had to get a new person to cut my hair. The person who cut my hair had been cutting it for 28 years.
Wow.
Yeah, once I find something I like, I stick with it.
Cool. Very cool. Let's talk about, you are a self-made millionaire. What attributes or what things have helped you be successful over the years?
Easy. My drive, determination, the fact that you want it, that it's important to you. Then I was gifted with financial analytics and then the ability to sell. You look at these, I'm a big San Francisco 49ers fan. People look at the 49ers, they say, oh, they look at Brock Purdy, oh, he has it so easy. That guy works hard. All the guys on that team work hard. They would not have had the success they've had certainly over the last 5 years unless people are working hard, dedicated, and committed to their objective. Their objective, obviously, is to win the Super Bowl. My objective was to have, I'm going to call it financial independence.
Cool. How does your life and lifestyle compare to some of your friends and some of your billionaire friends?
It's not that much different. Really, the two big differentiators in the world, where if you go from a mere millionaire to a billionaire, are jets and boats. You strip those away, and there's only so much you can do or have. And both of those are very expensive luxuries that make sense. I've certainly looked into both. I'm really not a boating guy. And the planes, I just cannot justify the cost of it, particularly when we fly on Southwest and my wife gets to fly for free.
Go off on that. I know you're a big fan of Southwest. You could easily fly private or fly a jet, but I know that you love Southwest. I want to hear more about that.
It's just easy. One of the things is living in Phoenix, it's a hub. So we can pretty much get almost anywhere in the country that we want on a direct flight. Worst case, it's 2 flights. And I rather spend money. We are big believers in experiences, and particularly my wife is the experience queen. So even when we go, if let's say we go to Aspen, let's say we go to Newport, wherever, we stay in a very nice hotel, but it's not the nicest hotel in town. We don't get a suite, but we certainly go out to the best meals and do the most interesting activities. We just came back from a 3-week safari to Africa, and the adventures and the experiences we had there were incredible. And we paid up for them, but we'll have those memories for a lifetime. So I think really, at least at my stage in life, it's more about experiences with your life partner, experiences with your family, experiences with your friends. It's not so much about stuff.
Yes. I've heard that you have a strong opinion on vacation homes, like owning vacation homes versus maybe timeshares or fractional ownership. Can you tell me?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in fractional real estate, and I've owned fractional real estate for 25 years now, and it has been phenomenal. Now, the one thing that you need to do to be successful in owning fractional real estate is you need to manage that process. You cannot be a passenger. You need to be aggressive in going out and pursuing the reservations or the times that you want. Now, we're also fortunate at the stage in life where my wife and I are at now. We don't want to go on vacation Christmas week or 4th of July week or President's week when everybody's there. In fact, when we ski, we like to ski Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And we typically pick the week or two after the holidays, so then everybody's gone. So that really helps a lot. Fractional real estate may not be the right bet for someone that has a family that's locked into a school schedule and can only go on vacation that week between Christmas and New Year's, or can only go Thanksgiving week. But if you have flexibility in your schedule, this kind of goes back to the millionaires, billionaires. If you're a millionaire, you can stay in some of the best properties and the billionaires might stay in and own. The billionaire might own that property, but they've got a lot more bills. A clear example, we go over to the Marriott Newport Coast Villas. These are right there in Crystal Cove. They're nice, clean, two-bedroom units. They're up on the hill. We overlook the Pelican Hill Golf Course, and we have the same view as the $50 million houses in Crystal Cove and in Pelican Crest. And the nice thing is the 4, 5, 6 weeks a year that I'm there, I get to enjoy that view. If a light bulb is out or my dishwasher doesn't work, I call down to the front desk and they come and fix it. I don't have to pay the crazy California property taxes. I get to go to all the best restaurants, get to do everything, enjoy the weather that they do for a fraction of the cost. So I would say it's about optimization.
Cool. I think what I like about what you're saying is you seem just very intentional with how you spend your money.
Absolutely. There's not a dollar that I spend that I don't think about. And sometimes my wife gives me a bad time that I think about it too much.
I did hear that you love a good outlet deal.
Back in the day, I did. Now with the internet, it's just too easy. And now what I typically do, though, I will tell you this, is I watch for the stuff to go on sale, and then they might give you a promo, a promo coupon. One of my favorite places to shop is Puma. I like their tennis shoes. I like their sweatsuits. I like their leisure wear. And you wait for the stuff to go on sale, 50% off or 60% off. And it's crazy how that works. FootJoy golf stuff, same thing. The other place I like to shop is eBay, where you can buy stuff that's basically new at a pretty good price. I shudder to think where it came from, but that's not my job to ask where it came from.
That's so cool. When you are not investing in working, I know you love traveling. What other things are you doing for fun these days?
We just built a house here in Scottsdale, and that was a 3.5-year ordeal. It was a quarter to a half-time job, depending on the week. We moved in middle of April. We had a punch list of 286 items. I think we're down to 12 items now.
Woo! That's awesome.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Yes. Yes, it is.
So we built the house. My wife is an incredible cook, so we certainly enjoy food. We like to travel. We like to entertain. We just had the grandkids here last week. So it's amazing how the calendar fills up. We typically play golf. Since I'm still working, it's hard to play during the week, but we play golf Saturday and Sunday mornings. I have 200 miles of some of the best flow trail in the country right outside my front door. So I'm a pretty avid mountain biker, and life is good.
What does your daily schedule, your daily routine look like? How do you set up your schedule? Because I know you still work, but you probably have more flexibility than some. So how do you set up your day?
We are early risers, so we might wake up between 5 and 5:30 in the morning. We have 2 Labrador retrievers that are about 2.5 years old that require some attention. So we'll get up and start with them. We have a whole process where you give them their probiotics and their glucosamine and clean their teeth. It's Jesus Christ. What are we doing here? Then there's one place where they like to go pee, and then they have to walk around the yard, and then they have to do number 2 in a different place, and they each have their special place to do it. Then they like to jump in the pool. Then we got to dry them off, and they need to come in and calm down, and so it's an hour and a half of just crapping around with the dogs in the morning. And I might be checking my emails or social media from overnight to see what transpired. And then, so by 7 o'clock, 7:30, I can start my work day. I like to try and squeeze a mountain bike ride in there if I can sometimes. This time of year, you really got to go early because it's too hot, but kind of in the winter, I'll go in the late afternoon and do a mountain bike ride. But then I'll conduct my work business from, say, 7 or 7:30 until 3. Then the day winds down and do what I need to do. But I'm a 24/7 person, and if somebody wants to have a call early in the morning or later at night on the weekend, as long as I don't have an activity that's scheduled that conflicts, I'll do it. There's some people that have pretty hard boundaries. Look, I don't take calls after 6 o'clock, and I don't take calls before 7 in the morning, and never on weekends. And I've never been that kind of person.
Cool. What lessons do you hope that your sons learn from watching you and watching your career?
I tried to give them advice early on, and they told me I didn't know what I was talking about, or it's not that way anymore, Dad. And now they have slowly come to realize, hey, you know what? My dad's a pretty smart guy. The advice he gave me is good. And with my sons in their 30s now, and my wife's sons in their 30s now, they absolutely listen to what we say very seriously because it's proven well. And my sons eventually did listen to the guidance that I gave them, and they have both.
What was it? What was the guidance?
You need to go to a 4-year college. Doesn't matter what college you need to go to. You need to work hard, apply yourself, to a job. Keep yourself out of trouble and those type of things. Be careful of the quality of people that you hang around with, etc. Those type of things. And then they've started to have an interest in some of the investments that I'm in, and I'll send them decks on deals that I'm working on just so they can read through them. And I'll even say, okay, come back and give me 5 positive points and 5 negative points on this deck.
Cool.
And they do it, so they learn. The younger them didn't really appreciate who and what I was and the advice I gave them. The older them appreciates it immensely and values
That
it.
is really neat. What do you hope your sons do with their inheritance one day, if they're getting one? What would you love to do?
I certainly don't want them to squander it needlessly. I would hope they would be thoughtful in spending it, whether it be on a home or education would certainly be probably my 2 primary objectives. We have 3 grandkids with a 4th on the way, those type of things. Probably, again, home and education are probably the 2 most important. Then maybe some interesting vacation opportunities.
Cool. So you do not seem like you're slowing down at all. You still seem as driven as ever to keep pushing forward. What kind of drives you or motivates you? Is it a love of your work? Is it something else? I can just tell that you're still hungry. You don't seem like you're going to drift off into the sunset or the retirement years.
I want to be relevant. I still want to be relevant. I like making a difference. I'm on a couple of different boards, and I really appreciate the missions of these organizations and what they're doing. And I think they really appreciate the knowledge and the insight that I have and bring to them. So that is becoming a bigger focus in my life. I'd probably like to serve on some more boards. I like that work. The being in the ditches, the nitty gritty every day. I've been doing that for close to 40 years. I'm ready to be done with that. Although in all honesty, I don't have to do that much because I have a team that kind of does a lot of that for me.
Cool. Can you tell us about some of the boards or organizations you're involved with? I know one interesting one is the board of Goodwill in Arizona.
So it's technically, I'm on the board of Thrive, which is their subsidiary that focuses on for-profit ventures, including real estate, alternative real estate concepts, education, housing, etc. So really what their overarching goal is, they want to end poverty as we know it. Now I looked at the CEO and said, that's a pretty big goal. But I said, I appreciate the incremental steps that you're taking and the things that you're doing to have an influence, a positive influence on people's lives and at least end poverty or try and end poverty for a portion of those folks. The whole Thrive, which has a very good relationship or basically a brother-sister relationship with Goodwill, is really excellent. And then I'm also I'm an honorary commander out at Luke Air Force Base. Luke Air Force Base is a very significant base. In fact, if you took the aircraft at Luke Air Force Base and made them their own Air Force, it would be the 4th most powerful Air Force in the world.
That is incredible.
It really is. And really what we're doing is we're working out there to make life better for the enlisted man on the line. We're also trying to work to educate the let's call it the overall community about Luke's mission and the good things that they do for us in the community. And that has really been rewarding. I'm probably going to continue on with them. My term as an honorary commander is up in October, but they have a kind of an alumni association that I think I'm going to migrate to. But as a result of my affiliation with Luke, I got to go for a ride in the back of an F-16 jet. What a crazy experience, bucket list item.
That is so awesome. What was it like?
Incredibly invigorating and scary at the same time.
Yes.
We had to do a couple of days of training. Did you guys have F-16s in them? Did you have planes or did you have Harriers?
Oh, yeah. We have F-16s now. The F-22 is the big jet.
Yeah. So the 16s are still pretty capable. It's not a 35, it's not a 22, but we pulled 7.5 Gs, so it's the real deal.
Yes.
And the combat mission that I went on, we did 10 practice bombing runs out at a bombing range here in the southern part of Arizona. The first 5 runs I did okay, but then I started getting some heaves, and I basically drive heaved on bombing runs 6 through 10 for 25, 30 minutes. Then we came back and he's like, hey, do you want to fly the plane? I'm like, you know what? I'm not in the condition to fly the plane. And then we're coming back, we're getting in the pattern, and I hear him talking to the tower, and he says, do you want to come in or get in the pattern? He says, oh, I want to get in the pattern. So he gets in the pattern and he pulls a 5.5 G bat turn, and I just start puking everywhere. And I puke the whole way down the runway. And then the unit that I'm affiliated with at Luke is there to greet me. I've just been puking for a half hour. They're like, party, have a good time. They got bottles of champagne. They're spraying them all over me. I'm going to say, no, don't spray the champagne on me. And then I had to have the walk of shame and take my little chow bag over to the dumpster. But thank God I didn't get any because they said it can take hours to clean out all those switches.
Wow,
so it was really an incredible experience, and I have so much respect for the work that these pilots do in a very stressful and challenging environment. I was just like, wow, this is insane. And in fact, I don't know if it's Netflix or Amazon has a special on the Blue Angels, and I almost had a little PTSD watching that because it was so realistic and so good.
Cool. Oh, I'll have to look that up. I have a lot of listeners who are in residential real estate who are interested in making the move into commercial. And I'm wondering if you have any advice, if you could put yourself in the shoes of maybe someone that's a little bit earlier in their career and they are interested in commercial, but they don't know how to make the jump or get started. Do you have any advice that you could give that person?
My best advice would be to try and find someone in your local market that you can partner or JV with on your first couple of commercial projects. Because I think it's a big leap. Again, I don't know what part of the country are people in, but what you can get fix and flips for 100 or 150 in some places. And if you're going to start to get into commercial buildings, you might be talking $500,000 or $1 million. So that's a 5X or a 10X increase in capital commitment. And maybe what you can do is see if you can become a 10 or a 20 or a 25% partner in a building, maybe put in some sweat equity so that it works for both of you guys.
Great advice. I know that you are a big reader. Do you have any favorite books or resources that you're loving or that you recommend that the audience read or listen?
My reading is more focused on periodicals, trade publications. What I will tell you is I'll give you a couple of podcasts that I think are incredible. There's a podcast called Capital Allocators, which focuses on private equity. There's a podcast called Grit, which is one of the operating partners from Kleiner Perkins. Goldman Sachs has a series of podcasts that I really like. Bain and Company has a couple of podcasts that I really like. And those will give you deep insights more into private equity and commercial real estate. I think podcasts, the quality of the guests, that some of these people get on their shows are insane. And it's almost like having a one-on-one interview or having lunch with them.
I agree. It's amazing. Do you have any other guest recommendations from your network being in the business for a long time now? Is there anyone that you think you got to have that person on?
Did you have your dad?
Not yet.
You should have your dad.
Yes.
Maybe you should have your dad or have Dina. Maybe have Dina first and then have your dad.
Okay.
I think Dina would be really good, particularly for your real estate focused people, because she's the one that really does all the nitty gritty. Yeah, Dina, have Dina.
Okay, cool. Peter, this has been such a great conversation. I'm so excited for the episode to come out, and I know a lot of people are.
No, Maura, great. I'm glad we could finally connect. I know it took a while, and really excited to be able to participate and share some of my thoughts with you. Hopefully you and your listeners will find it interesting.
Thanks so much for listening today. This podcast is made possible by Doratus Properties, or My Real Job. Doratus is a real estate investment firm here in Alabama. And if you are a real estate professional located in or around the Birmingham, Mobile, or Baldwin County areas, we would love to connect and work with you. Despite the crazy interest rates in the market, we are always looking for properties to buy, and we always want to expand our network of business partners. So feel free to shoot me an email at maura@doratusproperties.com or fill out any of the forms on our website so that we can connect. Right now, we are actively looking for more properties to flip and add to our rental portfolio, so make sure to keep us in mind. This concludes today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure you come back next week for another great episode of the Mastering Real Estate Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure that you are subscribed to the podcast and leave us a rating and review. We are a new and growing podcast, so every rating, review, and share helps immensely. Also, make sure that you're following us on YouTube and social media. You'll get a lot more behind the scenes and content there daily. See you in the next one.